My name's Andrew Rains. I'm a wine educator and part of the team at Okanagan Crush Pad Winery, and today I'm very excited to take you on a virtual tasting of 4 exceptional and beautiful wines under the Freeform label. Now, Okanagan Crush Pad have been pioneers of organic viticulture for quite some time, and this has actually resulted in us having our own 3 certified organic vineyard sites. The first one, Switchback Vineyard, is located right beside our winery, planted entirely with Pinot Gris grapes. Also in Summerland, we've got Garnet Valley Ranch, which at being over 600 meters of altitude is the highest elevation vineyard site in the Okanagan. Finally, at Seacrest Mountain, we've got our Chardonnay grapes, Pinot Blanc, Sauvignon Blanc, Gewürztraminer, and many other varietals as well. So we are very, very passionate about organic viticulture, and the idea behind Freeform was we wanted to take what we do in the vineyard sites, but also replicate that philosophy in the winery as well. When it comes to a lot of mass-produced conventional wines that we drink today, they are quite often heavily manipulated in the winery to the point where you can make an argument that they are maybe not even wine itself. Wine should be grapes with minimal intervention, resulting in the wines that we enjoy. And that's what we focus on when it comes to the wines that we create at Okanagan Crush Pad. We want what you drink in your glass to reflect the place that the grapes are grown and to have a sense of the place that the wines come from. So that's what we look at when it comes to our philosophy. Low intervention, natural winemaking, where we're not adding a bunch of additives, we're not adding a bunch of sulfur, we're not adding a bunch of chemicals to the wines. We are really allowing the wines to find their own place under the watchful eye of Matt Dumayne. So these wines usually are unfined, unfiltered, with low to minimal sulfur use, and a real true reflection of the vineyard sites and the way that we create them. So with the 4 wines today that we're going to be tasting, we're going to start off with some sparkling wine with the Freeform Blanc de Noir. That is simply a traditionally made sparkling wine made from Pinot Noir grapes. So it's a white wine from black grapes. Then we're going to have the Freeform Sauvignon Blanc, which is incredibly exciting. Now, just so you know, this is not your everyday Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. This is a skin contact Sauvignon Blanc, incredibly different and beautiful, beautiful wine. Then we're going to have 2 different Cabernet Francs. We'll have a Rosé made by Cabernet Franc, and then we'll finish off with the 2017 Cabernet Franc itself. So I'm excited that you chose these 4 wines. Without further ado, let's start off with the Freeform Blanc de Noir. I always like to say there's no better place to start a wine tasting than with some sparkling wine, and we have a beautiful sparkling wine for you to drink today. So this is the 2017 Freeform Blanc de Noir. Now, Blanc de Noir just means it's a white wine coming from a black grape. In this case, it's 100% Pinot Noir coming from one of our own certified organic vineyard sites, the Garnet Valley Ranch in Summerland, British Columbia. Now, as I mentioned before, this is at high altitudes, at being over 600 meters of elevation. That's important because sparkling wine production, you want high acid wines, and being at the high altitude retains the acidity in the grapes. So the grapes are picked, they go down to Okanagan Crush Pad, they are then pressed into concrete tanks for natural fermentation. From there, they go into bottle for secondary fermentation. They spend 20 months on their lees, lying on their side. They are disgorged with zero dosage added. Now, zero dosage means that there's no sugar added at this point whatsoever, resulting in a bone-dry, beautiful, food-friendly wine. So this is made in the traditional method of sparkling wine production, also called the Champagne method. In this case, we're even using Pinot Noir, which is one of the Champagne grapes. One thing you will notice that's different, though, is we use a crown cap on the wine. So we are very passionate about having a low carbon footprint, and by simply using a crown cap instead of a cork, a foil, and a cage, we're actually using half the weight and half the metal that you would find in a lot of other sparkling wines. So this is important because it's better for the environment, and by not using cork, we're also reducing the risk entirely of any cork taint whatsoever. So the wine is more pure and it's a little bit more sustainable as well. So beyond there, you can see that we've got 2 different glasses in front of us today. Most people generally drink their sparkling wine out of what's called a champagne flute. Now, visually, it's very appealing. You can see the bubbles going up. It's a very nice, fancy way of drinking sparkling wine. My preferred method of drinking sparkling wine, though, is using a coupe. It's a little bit more of an old-fashioned way, but I find you get even more aromatics by using the coupe to taste sparkling wine. But you can use a white wine glass, you can use anything you want to drink your sparkling wine out of, whether it's a flute or a coupe. Again, I'm going to taste it out of a coupe. Now, when it comes to tasting the sparkling wine, again, I want you to bring a bit of oxygen into your mouth as you taste it. And more importantly, I want you to think about how the bubbles react. That's called the mousse of the wine. So right there, you're going to notice a beautiful, gentle mousse. Really coats the mouth. Really, really nice mouthfeel. I get a lot of stone fruit on this and what are called autolytic notes. So with traditional method sparkling wine, when it's aging in bottle, you get a lot of almost brioche bread-like notes, which is incredibly enjoyable in a sparkling wine. Because this is bone dry, this would be very food friendly as well. If you haven't tried it before, I highly recommend a traditional method sparkling wine like the Freeform Blanc de Noir with fried chicken. It's an absolute match made in heaven, but incredibly versatile when it comes to pairing this wine with food. So I hope you enjoy. The next wine we're tasting is one of my favorite wines by Okanagan Crush Pad. It's the 2018 Freeform Sauvignon Blanc. Now, I'm going to start with a disclaimer. If you're used to more entry-level Marlborough Sauvignon Blancs that have super high acidity or gooseberry and passion fruit bomb, this is going to be entirely different. Now, when it comes to the color of a wine, you have to keep in mind that the color comes almost entirely from the grape skins. So red wines, the redness is coming from the skins of those grapes. When it comes to white wines, they generally don't go through any skin contact whatsoever. The grape skins also impart tannins on the wines, which are the drying sensation that you get from a lot of red wines when you drink them, but usually you don't get in white wines. Now, because of that, this here is a skin contact white wine. It goes through 9 months of skin contact in stainless steel and clay amphora. Now, clay amphora is something that's been used for thousands and thousands of years as a fermentation vessel. I find it has a very unique flavor profile and textural profile to the wines as well. Now, because this is skin contact, it makes it very food friendly for a lot of cuisines that can be quite difficult to pair with white wine specifically. Curries, Moroccan cuisines, Korean cuisines, Japanese cuisines, even Ethiopian food, all notoriously difficult to pair with wines. But because this is skin contact and it has a little bit of tannins in there, this would actually stand up to those different types of cuisines. Now, when it comes time to smell and to taste the wine, you definitely want to get some oxygen in the glass because you're going to notice that the aromatics are very different. So I'm still getting some of the aromatics that you would expect from a Sauvignon Blanc. This certainly has guava in there, but I'm also getting almost a bit of salinity in there. Now when it comes time to taste the wine, I want you to think about the tannins that you're going to get. You will get a tannic sensation where your mouth will dry, which you normally wouldn't get from a white wine. There we go. So if you're tasting that for the first time, you're going to tell straight away that is very different than any Savvy you've ever had in your life. It's got more body. It's got a lot of complexity. It's certainly got almost a pithy salinity to it as well, which makes it very, very fascinating. So a beautiful wine, skin contact, very food friendly. A lot of people call these orange wines, which is making certainly a bit of a comeback. We prefer to say skin contact because it's a bit more of a true definition to how the wine is being made. But regardless, incredibly food friendly and a very, very interesting way of drinking a Sauvignon Blanc. Next up, we have the 2018 Freeform Rosé. Now, I'm a huge fan of rosés. I drink them year-round. I've also made it a bit of a personal mission of mine to drink rosés from as many different varietals as I possibly can from all over the world. So I've had rosés from France, Italy, North America, even a rosé made off the coast of Africa. I've also had rosé made from Pinot Noir, Gamay, Zweigelt. But one thing that I keep coming back to, particularly when it comes to rosés from the Okanagan, is Cabernet Franc. And that's what we've got with the Freeform Rosé. This is certified organic vineyard site, Cabernet Franc, gently squeezed into concrete tanks for a natural fermentation. From there it goes through full malolactic fermentation where the harsher malic acids like you would find in a green apple are naturally transformed into lactic acids like you would find in dairy, which are much, much softer and much more palatable, right? And it gives you this nice, beautiful color on the rosé. Now, a lot of people think that dry rosés are going to be lighter in color and that darker color rosés are going to be sweeter. But as we learned from the Sauvignon Blanc, the color of the wine comes from the skin contact and isn't necessarily an indication of sweetness. So when it comes time to taste this wine, we want to give the wine a bit of a swirl, bring it up to our nose, And straight away, I think it's got a nice herbaceous palate, right? You've got some beautiful, beautiful red berries on the nose. Give it another swirl, give it a taste. Beautiful. All right, that is a fantastic rosé. It's balanced. It's dry, but you get a touch of luscious sweetness on there. You can tell it's gone through careful winemaking. There's no sulfur used in this whatsoever. Low intervention winemaking. A beautiful natural rosé. And as I said, it should be drunk year round. Rosé is not just meant to be sipped on a patio in the summertime. It's very food friendly. I think this would go beautifully with a grilled salmon. This would be good with brie cheese. This could stand up to a lot of different dishes, even a light pasta sauce. So if you learn nothing else from my video, it's that rosé is meant to be drunk year round. And if you're looking for a good quality winter rosé, look no further than the Freeform Rosé. The final wine in our virtual tasting is a 2017 Freeform Cabernet Franc. I'm a huge fan of this varietal. I think it grows quite well in places like the Loire Valley in France, but when it comes to red wine production and potential in the Okanagan, I think Cab Franc is at the top of the list. Now these grapes are coming from a certified organic vineyard in Caledon, British Columbia. The grapes are picked, they go to Okanagan Crush Pad, where they are then put into 2 clay amphora and 3 large neutral oak vessels. From there, a native fermentation starts spontaneously. It spends 8 months on its skins, into which point it's pressed off and goes into concrete tanks to settle naturally without any filtration whatsoever. So true, careful, artisanal, low intervention wine making. Now when it comes to Cab Franc, it's certainly a bit of a unique variety when it comes to some of the aromatics that you will notice. So first off, you want to give your glass a little bit of a swirl. Bring the glass to your nose. Straight away, think about, are you getting red berries or are you getting black fruit? I'm getting a little bit more black fruit on this, maybe even a bit of mocha. But Cab Franc is notorious for having aromas, and this might sound a little bit strange, of pencil shavings and green vegetables. So some people get jalapenos, some people get green bell peppers. I get a little bit of pencil shavings and maybe a little bit of green bell pepper as well. I know it seems strange, but it's what makes Cab Franc very, very unique. Now when it comes time to tasting the wine, give your glass a bit of a swirl, take in some oxygen as you taste the wine. So as you're going to notice, if you've had Cabernet Sauvignon before, it's a little bit lighter. The tannins aren't quite as high. To me, these are nice, velvety, well-integrated tannins, but because of the tannins are there, it's going to be big enough to stand up to a steak or a meat-based dish, but also light enough to be able to stand up to something like a pasta. This would do very well with hard cheeses as well. Cab Franc is very versatile and very food friendly. It's overshadowed quite often by Cabernet Sauvignon, as it's a bit more of an internationally recognized varietal, but I think when it comes to red wine from the Okanagan, there's nothing better than some beautifully handcrafted Cabernet Franc. Thank you for joining today's virtual tasting. I hope you enjoyed the wines as much as I did, and if by chance you didn't get all the way through the Blanc de Noir, remember you can reseal it with a nice handy champagne stopper, and from what I've been told, that will be just as good the next day, although I've never made it that far. Now, if you're looking for a bit more information about the wines or want to learn a bit more about the winery, please visit us at OkanaganCrushPad.com, and we hope to see you at the winery soon. Many other varietals as well. So we're very, oh my god. Entirely with Pinot Gris grapes. Also in Summerland, we've got what? Oh, dude, so good! Right. Now, a lot of high volume, commercially created, grown, what? I always like to say the best place to start a wine tasting is with some from then they are bottled into the bottle for secondary fermentation. Bottled into the bottle. Now. No. Now the rest made from Pinot Noir, from Cabernet, from all over the world. It grows beautifully in the beautifully. Thank you for what?